قبل 3 سنوات بأسلوب حياة الصبية الأمريكية العادية التي ترتاد المدرسة الثانوية، فكان اهتمامها منصبا على الحفلات والأصدقاء المقربين من الشباب وأحدث صيحات الأزياء. ثم قابلت شخصا اعتبرته أكبر حب في حياتها، لكنها فقدته في حادث مأساوي. وهي الآن مسلمة متدينة وتعيش بأسلوب حياة مختلف تماما. كانت ماريا من مشغلي الراديو الهواة منذ سن 9، وكانت تستمتع بعزف الكمان مع أسرتها غير المسلمة. إنها شابة أمريكية فريدة، فلماذا قررت اتباع طريق الإسلام؟
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maria and I converted to Islam 1 year ago. I'm from Boulder, Colorado. I was born here. I went to school here my whole life. Both of my parents, they're actually from South Africa. They immigrated here. Neither of them are religious. They're both atheists, so they don't really believe in God. I have one brother. He's studying music at the University of Colorado. He is Catholic, so he's not Muslim either. Before I converted, I didn't really believe in God. I didn't really have a religion. I didn't really have a faith, I guess you could say. I kind of grew up as my parents taught me, so I didn't really believe in God, and I didn't believe in really any religion at all.
We didn't raise our children in any faith. We didn't take them to church. Neither of them were baptized in a Christian church, and the American school system is very good because we send them to public schools. It's non-sectarian, non-religious. They're exposed to those things. They can learn about that.
Talked about religion, we kind of talked about it almost negatively, I guess. We didn't really, before I didn't really see religion as a good thing. I thought it was something that like caused a lot of problems, you know, especially like in the world with wars and stuff. I viewed it mostly negatively.
We discuss everything, including religion, as a family. We have done since they were small, and we are not against religion at all. Just because we don't have faith does not mean we're against it. And we've always said to them, they must find their own way and their own interests, their own path, and their own convictions. And we've never stood in the way of them doing that.
I guess I first learned about Islam about maybe 2 years ago. I was dating this guy from Pakistan. And so that was like the first time that I really opened up to Islam and was more open to learning about it, not just thinking about it negatively. I really didn't know anything about it at all. So after talking to him and talking to a few other people, I started to gather more facts, and I bought an English copy of the Quran that I started reading.
Maria had this new boyfriend. His name was Munib, and he was a wonderful guy. I mean, we accepted him into our family and into our hearts right away. He was making his own path. He was studying biomedical mechanical engineering, but he also had done a lot of things in the student community. He had won an award in 2007 as International Student of the Year at CU, and he had started an international coffee hour at CU. And we joked about it because he was born in Nigeria and we were born in Africa, and with that introduction, that close introduction into...
When I met my fiance, we didn't really talk about religion. I didn't think about him in the sense of being a Muslim or being very religious. I guess I just thought of him as being like a really like noble and like kind-hearted person. He was one of the best people that I've ever known, like of such good character. He really was like kind to everybody. Like he was never mean to anybody. Even if he didn't like you, you know, he would be nice, and he would never look you straight in the face and be mean. And I guess when I thought about him, I didn't think about those qualities being because of Islam. I just thought they were because of him. But the more I thought about it and the more I realized that, you know, maybe these things, maybe these good things about him were because of Islam, you know. Maybe because he was a Muslim, he actually ended up being like more kind-hearted and more open and a better person.
Yes, it was not surprising, perhaps. Once she had a close friend who could perhaps talk to her more about his faith than we could, certainly, and not surprising that she would learn a little bit more about Islam and perhaps be attracted to it. So that was not surprising and certainly not of any concern.
It was difficult to come to terms with his family's reaction because they were very unhappy about the relationship.
They had never met Maria. His family had never met Maria.
His family were horrified that he had a girlfriend who was not a Muslim. His family were very unhappy.
I can imagine perhaps if the situation had been reversed and our daughter was studying in a foreign country and we're suddenly going out with somebody of a different faith or religion, and I would be at least
a little nervous.
Yes, yeah. I'd want to know a little bit more about it.
The reason that I really chose Islam, when I really decided that it was going to be the right thing for me, that guy that I was dating from Pakistan, we were engaged for a long time. He was my fiance, and at the time I was going to school in Arizona, and he was coming to visit me. He was driving from Boulder to Arizona to come visit me, and he was actually killed in a car crash. And so that was when it was my first real experience with death. And that was really what inspired me to like look more into Islam, is because I just knew that there had to be more to him just dying. Like, he couldn't just die. Like, there had to be like a reason, or not even a reason, but like there had to be some like higher power that was like dictating this. So I read the Quran, and I read a lot of books, and I talked to a lot of people. And eventually I remember one day I was reading the Quran. It was maybe 2 months after he died. And I was reading the Quran, and it just, it all kind of like clicked for me. I just had this moment where it all made sense. Everything that I was reading, and everything that I knew, and everything about him, and everything about this whole situation, really. I just came to a point where I just knew that it was right.
بعد الدراسة المتأنية لمعنى هذا الاكتشاف، قررت أنها مستعدة للخطوة التالية، أن تنطق بالشهادة.
I guess the first time I said the Shahada, like, I was by myself. It was, you know, that point where I realized that everything made sense. And that's when I first said it, was by myself, you know, really. I mean, that's when I first felt it. Later I did, when I ended up talking about it with some of my Muslim friends, they convinced me to go to Denver, because there's a sheikh in Denver that I went and I talked to, and you know, I talked with him, and he kind of made sure that this is what I really wanted to do. You know, he wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing it for somebody, that I wasn't doing it for my fiance. You know, and when he, you know, when we talked about this, and I told him, yes, you know, this is for myself. You know, I said the Shahada with him, and with two other of my friends, you know, like as witnesses.
Maria and I didn't ever discuss her converting to become a Muslim. We discussed the Muslim faith, and we discussed other faiths, but I don't believe that we ever discussed it specifically until after she met Munib, and after she was dating him for a while before we met him, and I don't think we ever discussed her converting and following the Muslim faith until after she had met Munib.
I didn't ever really talk too much about it with my parents, you know, just because I know that they weren't really keen on religion. I think the first time they realized that I was really getting serious was the last Ramadan, and I fasted, you know, for the whole Ramadan. It was my first Ramadan. It was really hard, but you know, I did it, and that's when they kind of realized, oh, she's serious, you know. They're like, wow, she's really not eating all day. And I think that's when they first realized that it was serious. You know, I never really talked too much about it, but eventually, you know, they kind of came to accept it. I suppose if I hadn't met my fiance, I might not have learned as much about Islam as I did, and I might not have made the decision to convert as soon as I did. I mean, now looking back on everything that's happened, I think I still would have ended up converting if I'd learned what I had. I think it would have just taken me a lot longer, and it wouldn't have been as clear a decision. Because when he died, it really made things clear to me. Like, I'd never had such an intense experience, I guess. You know, went to some parties and did that kind of a thing. I would say I was a different person. After I converted, I kind of felt like I had like a clean slate, you know, like I could kind of start things over in a way. I felt like some of the bad things I did in my past, you know, before I was a Muslim, I felt like they kind of, not got erased, but lost significance, you know. I felt, but after I converted, I kind of changed a lot of the people that I was hanging out with, and so most of my friends now are Muslims. You know, we'll hang out together, and on Friday nights we'll hang out and like go to a movie or go bowling or something. We won't like, you know, go to a party. So I think who you hang out with definitely helps, and my friends have helped me to, you know, make the switch. I do think about, you know, marriage sometimes. I don't worry about it too much. You know, I feel like I will find the right person, and I do want them to be Muslim, obviously. I'm not really interested in like dating anybody that's not a Muslim right now. I just, you know, I feel like right now it's such a big part of me that I don't really want to like date anybody that's not a Muslim. So my parents actually, they liked my behavior better after I converted. They didn't have to worry about me as much, you know. They didn't have to worry like, how is she going to get home safe, you know, that kind of a thing. They knew that I wasn't going to be going and doing anything stupid, so they actually, I think they felt better about my behavior afterwards.
As a parent, you always worry when your kids go out, and especially if they're out late, you worry that they're going to get in a car and somebody's going to be drinking, and there could be a problem. And now she hangs out with a bunch of other Muslim kids, and that's never an issue. They can be out late or not, and you don't have to worry about drunk driving.
إلى جانب التغيرات الداخلية التي جاءت نتيجة لاعتناقها الإسلام، كان هناك تغير خارجي كان على ماريا التفكير فيه بخصوص أسلوب ارتدائها لملابسها.
Well, when I first put the veil, it was definitely very hard. It was really hard. Classes, they were difficult. You know, I felt like everybody's staring at me. You know, there are other girls here that wear the hijab, but I think right now I'm the only American girl here wearing hijab.
Having Maria in my class wearing the veil, it's different. It's not like most students, but I like it. I like that she's very confident in her religion and can display it through how she wears it, and she's not afraid to tell people right away that I'm Muslim and this is what I believe, and I think it's great, and I think it's really pretty a lot.
I feel like proud. I feel good. I feel like it's part of me now, you know. I feel better about myself that I'm wearing it.
The Muslims that I've known have been very strong in their faith and practice their religion very regularly. They get up early and they pray and they incorporate it into their lives. So when I see someone wearing the hijab, I usually assume that they're a very religious person and very strong in their faith, especially since they're able to display it proudly like that around campus, especially on a campus like this where it's mostly people that have Christian background.
I don't think my parents are embarrassed when we go out and I'm wearing the hijab. I think that my parents actually have come to be proud of the fact that I wear it when we go out. I think they think that it shows other people that you can wear the hijab and still be smart. You can still, you know, be like your own person. You can still be independent. You can still think on your own. You know, just because you're wearing hijab, it doesn't mean, you know, something negative about you. And I think that they actually respect the fact that I wear the hijab now more.
It's interesting. I mean, Maria chooses to wear hijab. Sometimes I'm disappointed because she has really nice hair and she looks great when she doesn't have a veil on. But then I guess we get to see her inside the house, so that's fine. And sometimes she wears it not all the way around, but just tied in the back, which I sort of prefer that style. She has lots of very nice hijabs that she wears, so I don't mind what she wears. It's kind of nice if you don't have to do anything to your hair every morning.
I think the veil is a symbol, and I do worry sometimes that people are going to think perhaps she's being repressed because she's wearing the veil, but if you talk to Maria and understand she's doing it for positive reasons, I think you'd stop worrying about that, and it doesn't concern me. I do worry when she travels.
Yeah.
They're going to be traveling to South Africa, which is fairly tolerant. I don't think they will find any problems with it there. But even in Africa, people who wear certain styles of clothing or particular garb do tend to be pigeonholed as to their background or their status.
I guess the thing that attracts me the most to Islam is just the idea that we're all in this together, I think. You know, like, it's just kind of treat other people as you would like to be treated, you know. I mean, that goes without saying, but, you know, I think in Islam they really believe it, you know. And in Islam there's a big focus on keeping your word, you know, and, like, being true to yourself and, you know, not being hypocritical. And I really like those things. I really think that we should treat other beings like they are humans, you know, like they are human beings, like they mean something.
When I found out Maria had converted to Islam, it was a surprise for me. I mean, I'd seen her wearing the headscarf for a while, but I assumed it was just a fashion statement on her part, like I would wear a bow tie. You know, it's just something I choose to do. Then she told me she had actually converted, and I was surprised because she'd never really, at least to me, she'd never really expressed any interest in faith.
I get along a lot better with my brother now. You know, like any brother and sister, like, we've definitely had our fights. But we get along, definitely, and he's okay with the fact that I wear hijab, and he's accepted the fact that I'm Muslim, you know, and he converted to Catholicism before I converted to Islam, so he was already open to the idea of religion and open to the idea of, you know, a God, and so he was much more open, I think, to the fact when I converted.
I don't think her conversion really affected our relation all that much. We've been on the best of terms for a long time now. I mean, we used to fight and argue when I was a teenager and she was just becoming one, but not anymore. I think in some ways because we both do believe and participate in a faith, it's something that we share that is uniquely for us in our family unit, our holding to tenets of faith.
Yeah, we do talk about it, you know, we like to compare and contrast, you know, the two religions, and, you know, he thought it was interesting when I told him that in Islam, you know, we do believe in Jesus. You know, he was, like, shocked. He was like, I thought Muslims didn't believe in Jesus, you know. Mary, too, you know, because Catholicism is really about Mary, and so when I told him that Mary has her own chapter in the Quran, he was like, wow, you know, he was really impressed.
I think Maria has definitely made the right choice for her. I wouldn't try to influence her anyway, and I don't think I could if I tried. When we're out together, it can be very funny because I'm usually the goofy-looking one, and she's embarrassed to be with me, not the other way around. I mean, there's been times where we'll go to a restaurant, we're sitting down, and we'll be treated like a married couple, which is so weird, because it's like no one seems to see the family resemblance. All they see is, you know, there's this guy, and he's sitting over there, and then there's this girl, and she's got a hijab on, and so on, and, well, maybe they're dating, maybe they're married or something. And we always get a good laugh out of it when someone makes that mistake, because, you know, it's just so funny to us. You know, we're just brother and sister.
إحدى هوايات ماريا هي الطهي. اليوم تحاول إعداد وصفة جديدة تعلمتها أثناء دراستها في الخارج.
I'm making musemen, and I learned how to make these in Morocco when I was there for like 3 months. I stayed with a host family, and my host mom loved to cook. Most of my friends love it. Like, they love it when I make these because they're always like, bring us some. An American that converted, I think people, they get a lot of misperceptions about Islam. The media, newspapers, TV, like, they all portray Islam in a very negative way. You know, you never see a Muslim being a good person. You know, you always hear about, you know, terrorists or extremists. You know, you never hear about the good things that Muslims do, and I don't think people know enough. Like, I really don't. Like, before I converted, I knew almost nothing about Islam, you know. And, you know, we weren't taught this in school, university, nothing, you know. So I really had to learn it all on my own, and most people just never learn. So I think they just don't know a lot, and you know, the media just portrays Islam in such a negative way. It makes it difficult.
I think in Boulder, a lot of people really, you know, look beyond what you see in the news, and they actively try to understand and don't make preconceived judgments. But unfortunately, I mean, there have been times I've run into people who are actually intolerant and for no good reason. I mean, they just don't seem to understand or want to understand, you know, these other people, these different beliefs. They think theirs is the right way and that that's the only way it should be.
As an American, I think sometimes the foreign view is skewed a little bit. I personally have no malicious feelings against Muslims because of their religion. I just think a lot of people assume that because we have the war in the Middle East right now, that we discriminate against people of Islamic background.
My view on religion is what I think was originally intended in this country when the Constitution was written, is that everyone gets to make their own choice. We are not going to hold people, and I really cleave to that belief that everyone should be entitled to whatever they believe. I have known many people of many different religions, and I've always been accepting. I've never come across someone I actively thought that their faith was a problem.
ومن خلال تجربة ماريا لحياتها كمسلمة وجدت أن هناك نقصا شديدا في المعرفة والفهم للإسلام بين الأمريكيين بمن فيهم أصدقاؤها غير المسلمين.
I guess most of my non-Muslim friends, when they talk to me about Islam, most often they ask me like why I converted, you know, and then they ask me about Islam and they say, you know, like, is it true you have to pray 5 times a day, you know, is it true, like, they ask me all these things, and a lot of times they ask me things that just don't make sense, you know, they're like, you know, they'll be like, all Muslims are terrorists or something, and so I just have to explain things to them because they don't know almost anything about Islam.
Most people just don't know enough about it. The people that do hate or do discriminate, they just don't know enough about the culture, the religion, to be able to differentiate between people that are terrorists and just people that are Islamic background.
This summer I did a lot of traveling. I remember we ended up calling my grandma, you know, just to say hi, you know, how are you, we're together, we were thinking of you, that kind of a thing, and she knew that I had just come from Morocco. And so I remember she was talking to me on the phone and she said, now Maria, you know, you shouldn't turn into any of those Muslims because you know they're just, you know, they're so oppressive and they treat their women so poorly. And I remember I just said, yes, Grandma, yes, whatever you say.
I think to be fair to Americans, perhaps, just as there are very, very few Muslims who are responsible for the acts of outrage that get all the attention and get into the news, I think that there are many more tolerant Americans than is generally thought. Yeah. I think there are certainly vocal people who will get in front of a camera and will shout slogans and wave banners and say terrible things, but I think there are many in the population who are much more tolerant than that, and you don't necessarily always hear their voices. You know, they're perhaps not that interesting. I mean, the strident ones who are making outrageous statements are the ones you're likely to hear from.
I would definitely say that I'm proud to be an American as well as proud to be a Muslim. A lot of people think that those two things can't coexist. You know, they think that you can't be an American and be a Muslim at the same time. But I found that that's definitely not true. You know, I do keep a lot of like my American traits while at the same time, you know, embracing Islam and, you know, forming a new identity around Islam, but still incorporating my American values and my American way of life. My message to other people would be just to look at other people like they are yourself. You know, just know that not all Americans fit the stereotypes that you see on TV. I would say that most of America does not think about Islam in the way that you might think. We do see, some people anyways, do see Islam not as a bad thing.
In the U.S., there's a lot of different religions that are here, and we all get along, you know, all side by side. And I think my message is that in the U.S., although there's a lot of people who make a bad stereotype, a lot of them are very tolerant and open-minded. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the Muslim world that are just the same. And I think if we can all get together and work together, we'll make this place a better place to live in.
Religion often tends to divide people, but if we can understand that it's just a faith in a greater good and a greater being, then we can all exist together and just learn to love life and appreciate the time we have here with each other as human beings.
Peace can't exist with all these different religions, you know. Everybody doesn't have to be the same religion. We can all still manage to get along and coexist and live together and live peacefully and have a productive society with people of different religions. It's a good thing to have people with different religions because you get different views, you get different ideas, you know. And that's really the most important thing when you're trying to have a successful community.
I think having a Muslim daughter it has opened my eyes to the good, positive things that exist in Islam, and I would like to think that Muslims could also open their eyes and see the good, positive things that there are in this country and the tolerance that exists here.
For me, I still have a daughter, whether she's a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Christian. Maria and I have a very close relationship, and her religion, certainly from my perspective, doesn't interfere, doesn't cloud. I don't love her differently than before she declared her new faith. So I'm comfortable with it. I mean, as a parent, more than anything, you want your kids to be happy and satisfied with their lives. You want them to find their path and to be comfortable and happy with who they are. And this is part of who she is, and that works for me.
I try to find happiness like in my everyday life, you know. I mean, I'm busy, you know, I'm a student and I've got a lot of things to do, and I rarely have like a lot of free time, you know. And so I just try to like take joy in the things I do every day. You know, I love my family a lot, and they've been really supportive, and you know, I couldn't ask for a better family, and I couldn't ask for better friends. I have some of the best friends in the world, and I don't know, I'm grateful for everything that I do have, you know, and I try not to think about the negatives in life too much. I try to focus on the positives and stay optimistic.